Well, let's bring in the leader of Canada's Green Party now. Elizabeth May joins us from Toronto. Ms. May, good to see you again.
Great to see you, Peter, virtually.
Lots of pieces to this platform announcement today. Lots of areas covered. What are the key platform areas you think that Canadians ought to know about before they make a choice at the ballot box?
I think they should look at our whole platform. It was interesting that you said there were a lot of pieces to this platform. Our metaphor for the platform is that families gather around a table, and if you've got a jigsaw puzzle, you just took it out of the box and all the pieces are in front of you, you know you can build the whole puzzle. But if you don't have the top of the box, that picture on the top of the box, you can't do anything with all the puzzle pieces for much longer. So our metaphor is this platform is the top of the box. This is the vision for Canada in 2030. Now, if you're concerned about affordable housing, your solutions are here. If you're worried about the rising cost of drugs, your solutions are here in universal pharmacare. If you're a student dealing with the crushing student debt, we abolish tuition and significantly invest in our post-secondary institutions. We also bring in low-income dental coverage and childcare. But if you're someone who's worried about what's going to happen to the economy, we have major investments, which are really needed because our economy has been pretty flat in terms of investment for quite a while. Well, we see this as an opportunity, combined with the required action for climate change, to really take on a significant level of investment to transform our economy to one that's post-carbon. Clearly, throughout the platform is a strong commitment to Indigenous justice and reconciliation. There are a lot of elements of this. And of course, I think Canadians are really sick of wondering if their government is ethical. So we have some democratic reform pieces that are important, fair voting, and bringing in a new way that we should all work better together at different orders of government through a council of Canadian governments that brings a seat to the table for Indigenous leadership and municipal order of government.
Well,
it's very comprehensive.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I'm going to drill down on some of these things. Let's move right to the funding piece, the cost piece, though. I mean, because that's not there. You don't have a cost yet on this platform. When will you have one?
Well, very soon. Our full budget was submitted in June to the Parliamentary Budget Office, and I can't tell you how impressed and grateful I am for their top-notch expert work. They've had, we had, of course, intended to have the budget and the platform released on the same day. We think the budget numbers and the work of the Parliamentary Budget Office in reviewing all of our numbers will be completed within a week, and then we'll be releasing the budget. I wasn't comfortable releasing them on different days, but with a matter of a couple of days, I think we're fine, because the work that's being done to fully cost all these planks is substantial work, and it will be available very soon.
Okay, so we'll get a costing, and then we'll have, I guess, a better idea of how much money you're talking about. And then the question...
Well, I can tell you, though, Peter, that we intend to balance the budget on the same time frame as the Conservatives.
So 5 years.
So we're not nervous about what our platform costs, because we were identifying massive new sources of revenue, places that we've let go untapped.
That's where I want to go. So once we see the costing, then we get an idea, okay, then the next question becomes, how do you pay for it? What should Canadians expect to see done differently if there's a Green government when it comes to managing national finances?
Well, start with the fact we haven't had a tax commission to examine whether our taxes are applied fairly since the 1960s. So we do want to bring in a tax commission. As any accountant can tell you, boy, it gets hard to, and any Canadian, the Income Tax Act is increasingly larded with different deductions and boutique tax cuts and so on. So we do want to have a fair tax commission to examine where taxes are falling. But we won't increase the burden of taxes on middle income or average Canadians at all. For the super wealthy, they will find that some loopholes are closed. For instance, the stock options loophole, the one that allows for people to have write-offs for corporate meals and entertainment. That's quite a lot of money. But we're also going to apply a 0.2% financial transaction tax. We're going to increase the tax on commercial banks and larger corporations to 21%. We're going to go after the offshore money.
From 15 to 21%.
That's right.
And that's going to have some in the business community. What will you do with small businesses? They're going to look at the corporate...
They stay. We're not going to increase the small businesses are the backbone of this country. We'd like to be known as the party for small business. So small businesses, credit unions, et cetera, don't see any increased taxes. But we are serious about needing revenue for the challenges of the 21st century. And we have found a number of places. And another one I should mention is these firms that are multinational that take billions of dollars of profits out of Canada, but essentially don't pay taxes. So that's the e-commerce companies, the Amazons, Facebook, Google, Netflix, those corporations, Airbnbs, they're not benign. There are a lot of issues with them, including privacy concerns. We'll deal with that tomorrow with a deeper press conference looking at privacy issues and how political parties should be under the rubric of our privacy protection in Canada.
You can hear corporate Canada listening to this and saying, wait a minute, we've been working with the regimen of consistently dropping corporate taxes to make us more competitive. There goes the competition edge Canada might have. That's what they'll say.
Yeah, but look at our productivity index. It hasn't improved at all. And the late Jim Flaherty, whom just a wonderful human being, but he did say that these corporate tax cuts were to, remember how they framed it, the job creators? These guys haven't created jobs. They're gobbling up the use of artificial intelligence to lay people off. They're getting bigger profits, but they're sitting on piles of cash that they're hoarding. What former President of the Bank of Canada, Mark Carney, dubbed the dead money, because they're awash in cash. They're not reinvesting it. They're not creating the jobs. So we'll have to take a higher level of taxation from them in order to do the investment. They've proven over the last number of years that they're not investing in our economy. Their investment lines are relatively flat. Where growth in the GDP is about 1.5% year on year, but that's mostly in the social and rather in the service sector. We need to actually invest in our large energy infrastructure needs, which are for a renewable energy-driven electricity grid that reaches from coast to coast to coast. So our programs are very sensible. They'll be good for the economy. And some of the large transnationals haven't been paying their fair share for some time, and they probably won't like our budget, but Canadians will.
Okay, we have another, if I can frame it this way, another sort of skirmish with the NDP, this time in Quebec. The riding of Longueuil-Saint-Hubert, the former Quebec leader, the provincial leader of the Greens there, Eric Ferland, is now running for the NDP against the former NDP candidate, MP for the area, Pierre Nantel, that's running for the Greens. And I guess this kind of candidate trade, I think, seems to fuel a narrative that the Greens and the NDP might be interchangeable here. What would you say if that's a narrative that's developing?
Well, I don't know Mr. Ferland. He was a member of the Green Party some 25 years ago, but I think he's probably a good catch for the NDP. The reality is I'm not competing with the NDP, and our Green candidates aren't. I mean, it happens that Pierre Nantel, who's now a Green candidate in Longueuil-Hubert, who is, after all, of course, an incumbent MP, he was recruited to federal politics by Jack Layton. He served in Parliament for 8 years. He's someone I've worked with for 8 years, and I think he's so impressive, and he's very committed to climate action. But I have our candidate, David Murner, in Esquimalt-Saanich-Sooke in 2015 ran for the Liberals. So we're getting candidates, and we're getting people joining the Greens who have always voted Conservative, and now they've decided they're voting Green, or they used to vote NDP, and now they're voting Green. And a lot of former Liberals who are completely disillusioned with what's happened since the Liberals formed government in 2015 and broke a litany of promises. So it's not as though Greens are somehow poaching from an NDP pool. People of other parties from right across the spectrum are joining the Green Party and signing up to be candidates, and we welcome them with open arms because we do want to form consensus and work across party lines, and that appeals to a lot of people.
Okay, let's finish on this. You had some more questions about it today on the abortion issue and vetting of candidates. And I know you're revetting some of the candidates, and that includes Mr. Vercouteren in, I think it's Leamington, Kent. You wanted to have another look at his background because of some of his past supposed postings around anti-abortion. So where are you with that? Is he still a Green candidate, or is he going to be removed?
At this point, he is still a Green candidate. We're clarifying a number of things with him. I would like to speak to him personally. The thing we ask candidates the vetting process is extensive. And what we ask candidates in the forum is there anything about Green Party policy with which you disagree? And they identify that for us. He didn't identify any disagreement about abortion rights. And when contacted, he said, no, I support the party platform that women have a right to a safe and legal abortion. So we're still discussing it with him. I want to talk to him personally. The news cycle moves so fast, but we have to remember these are real live human beings, and they need time I need time to talk to them. I don't like discarding someone who is committed to Green values because there's a sort of a media storm, I think we ought to be more careful and considerate with fellow human beings than that.
Do you share the view of Andrew Scheer? Andrew Scheer is now saying that, look, if someone said something that's inappropriate in the past, now that's a little different than disagreeing with party policy, but if someone says something in the past, and is an apology good enough? And they say, look, that was 10 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, I've changed now.
Let's see, it depends on the issue, Peter. Quite honestly, if someone was at any point in their life a Holocaust denier, no, there's no room for anybody. Those thoughts, you can't say, oh, I've changed my mind. It depends on the extremity of the view. If there's a reasonably held view and they've now changed their mind, and it's some period of time, but it was a reasonable view to start with, it's something that you can say, okay, a reasonable person can change their mind and recognize that we must have access to safe legal abortion. Otherwise, women are going to die.
Right.
This is a clear position, and we won't compromise on that. But if someone's been in the past, deeply into conspiracy theories about 9/11, sorry, we're not your party. So it depends, I'd have to say, and on the sincerity of the candidate and how we assess them as individuals.
Elizabeth May, good to catch up with you on the campaign trail, and we'll talk again, I'm sure. Take care.
Thank you so much, Peter.